Hello, hi, I'm Eddie Obeng, and this is How. Daily, I bring you a different way to change your world, do things differently. Today, I want to look at your future, the future of work. Work as an engineer, that's what I trained as, is progress through difficulty. So, what you want is less difficulty, more progress. That's less work. But also, the future is where you're going to spend basically the rest of your life. So it's quite important to look at that. So let's have a look, because everyone talks about the future of work, and I want to explore some of the dilemmas strategically and also the transitions and what you can do and change and do differently and better. Let's jump onto Cube, where the sun is always shining. The sun is shining out here. And if I turn to my right, I think the sun is shining everywhere. There you go. Look, blue skies on Cube. So this is one of my favorite cubicles. It's a great place for advanced Cube people. Lots and lots of space for people to work at. Everyone has their own slates to actually capture stuff on. We've got whiteboards so you can break out. It's just a great space to work in. And out here, over here, you've got things like a window which lets you overlook the great big conference room. See whether there's anything happening in there. There isn't. Okay, so let's come here and let's have a look at the future of work. So where to start? If you know me and you know my work, you'll know that one of the things which I've worked quite hard on is this whole concept of the new world. Because there's always something saving, why not? The new world is a concept which is quite easy to get your head around. Basically, the idea is simply, let me get a bit closer, that we live in a world where the pace of change has accelerated over time and our ability to learn has stayed flat. Okay, this is learning. Okay, this is the pace of change. And so all of a sudden we flip from a world where we can learn faster, the world is changing, to a new world which changes faster than we can learn. Now that journey is worth exploring and understanding. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to give you a quick overview of maybe a couple of 100 years of trying to get to work. So this is the coalface. You'd have heard that expression. People use it as an expression for going to work, because once upon a time, people actually went to work at the coalface. These miners probably would have crawled on their hands and knees for 1 or 2 miles to get to work. You went to where the work was, and then they'd crawl back at the end of the day. That was called commuting. And then we started inventing other ways of working. So we started thinking about how that worked. And this is a typical miner thinking about, a peaceful mine, great place to work, but actually it's the coal face. So we then moved into agriculture and trying to make agriculture, which was just farming, more industrialized. So you can see people in a line, they're picking crops, they've got capital, which is the horse, the machinery driving the process. But again, you go to the crops, the horse goes to the crops. This is an early sort of manufacturing. You see all standing in lines. There's an in at one end, there's an out at the other end. You can see these sacks over here. And so there's a process flow. So we started building that into the way in which we work. So offices then ended up with people in rows. Why not? Even the floor is designed to have squares so you know where you're sitting and where the process is. And there's an inbox and an outbox and a phone with an incoming. And it's the same idea going on and on. And then we moved into these things, cubicles, and we gave people computers and electronic gadgets, but it's the same ideas. And then we moved into putting them into little boxes. And this is the world which most people lived in. And then we tried to make the boxes a bit better. So we gave them fun areas where they could sort of hang out. And you can see this little chap in the corner here. He's actually trying to do some work. Everyone else was just messing around. But they were still commuting. And this is a guy who was commuting high-tech. Obviously didn't get the memo that you can have voice hands-free. Then we moved into the world after lockdowns, where everyone just sits around at home or in a cafe and pretends to work. They're not working really. This doesn't actually work from home. Or they sit quietly and they reflect on a better life, etc. So we also have the growth of digital twins. So for example, with Cube, we built digital twins like this room of a real room. But also things like campuses where people would go, they'd almost live and work there. And the whole idea of work gets pulled away from location, gets pulled away from straight lines, gets pulled into creativity, the AI, the robots, the automation doing some of it. So what are the dilemmas we face? And the dilemmas are very real, and there are many of them. So for example, we face at a strategic level questions like, should we align the digital workplace for the next generation, or should we focus on behavior change and do what we're currently doing with the current generation, but in a different way? Should we use the technology to replace jobs, or should we use it to enhance people? Should we use it to be customer-centric, or should we enable people to be empathetic and be able to connect with our customers? Capital, should we own the capital? Should we move it out? Because the capital is no longer a horse. Digital, should we do simpler roles, or should we let the AI do complex roles? Should we get rid of the senior jobs, which are expensive ones, to the junior jobs? There are tons of dilemmas. Culture, how should we approach culture? And everyone's struggling with these dilemmas. And the reason these dilemmas are so engaging is because most of us haven't realized that the assumptions we're making probably no longer exist. So I use a tool called EDD, Future of Work, which basically stands for Evolve, Dominate, or Die. That's a pet, go and look it up, Future of Work. And what you do is we just think about the different assumptions we had in the old world and whether they're still valid or not. And if they're not valid, what do we do about them? So for example, a key assumption is work is a transaction between an employer and an employee. Is that true? Or is it more than that? Is it a partnership? Is it still just a transaction? You turn up and do what you want because after all, you're working from home. I don't know. If it's true for you, great. But then why are you going to put any energy into it? And the AI will probably replace you. Direction can be given by some senior person and people can be controlled. Is that still true? A complex world? I don't know. Maybe your world it is, maybe it isn't. What do you do about it? And for each of those, we start to come up with different things we might do or things we might stop doing so that we can actually address these assumptions which were there in the old world but might not be there anymore. Responsibility and accountability are aligned. That's why we run these hierarchies with reporting lines. But in reality, the person who has the capability to respond might not be the same as the person you're relying on to get the work done. Transfer and interchange of information is difficult. No, it's easy. We do everything digitally. The capital assets can't act by themselves. Yes, they can. We put an AI on a robot, it does by itself. It can think by itself. It can control itself. So none of those assumptions are true anymore. You no longer have to take the hay to the horse. Planning of the future is possible. Probably not. So you have to design strategies which go around multiple different routes. Efficiency is more important than effectiveness. No, you're probably only going to sell your product once because the world's changing. Effectiveness is far more important, perhaps, for you. Forecast horizon, that's how far into the future you can see without a confusion, is far away to justify. No, that's why people pivot. They flip. Skills don't have a long shelf life. Talent isn't as effective as collaborative working. Individuals' performance, who the hell's going to assess them anyway? It's better, and so on and so forth. So we've captured the most common assumptions we had from the old world. And the question then is, does this apply to you? So you literally go through this with your team with these, add any other assumptions you think you used to have, capture all of them, and use this to reinvent your future of work. So that's what EDD Future of Work is about. It's about systematically looking at the assumptions and the heuristics which have brought you here, and then unpacking them all. There's a quick guide, as always, and there's a weekly newsletter which you can subscribe to. Also, do that and tell your friends about it. And I've been Eddie Obeng. That was the Future of Work EDD.